Predators eat people, and he ate a lot of my life, and I want my life back.
She was the first woman to break her silence on Harvey Weinstein and the suffering he's caused countless women in Hollywood. Since then, she's made sure to never be silenced again. Rose McGowan has made a name for herself as an activist over the past few years, but before then, she was an upcoming actress with a promising career ahead of herself. While the world seemed sure about her future, they had no idea about the dark and painful past that Rose had been burdened with since she was just a young girl. From being born into a chauvinistic cult, being homeless and losing her first love, McGowan has had to endure a history that would have left most people down in the gutters. Instead, she has risen up, embraced her pain, and used it to fuel her drive to stand up for those who have been silenced.
I get asked a lot about feminism, and I say I'm a feminist because I'm not stupid, because I believe in equal pay and equal rights, and to me that's all it is. But I'm a humanist, above all.
Before we get into it, take a second to subscribe to Rumour Juice and hit that notification bell so that you can be the first to know when we upload new content. Young Rose grew up in Italy, but her childhood was far from normal. Her parents had been members of the polygamous religious cult Children of God. It gained popularity during the hippie age of the late 1960s. Joaquin and River Phoenix also spent the early years of their childhood as part of this cult together with their parents. The cult combined the worship of Jesus Christ with 60s-era free love and preached a fairly standard cult leader prophecy. The apocalypse is coming, and soon. This doomsday prediction encouraged his followers to live hand to mouth rather than make long-term plans. They were also forced to cut out all family and friends that did not share the same belief system. All media, such as newspapers, televisions, and certain books were also banned. You were cut off from your outside family. You were kept in the dark so you would obey. I was definitely a thorn in their side. And went on to describe how, as an act of rebellion, she lit an entire bookshelf of Bibles on fire.
What's your single most vivid memory from that time? Because you were a child then.
Yes, I was. Having a woman come in at night and ask me if I'd let God into my heart, to which I would say, not today, try tomorrow.
Things soon took a dark turn in the religious cult when the leader began to encourage intimate relationships with children. This immediately frightened Rose's parents, and they knew it was their time to leave. So one day, they packed up all their things and fled the cult with 9-year-old Rose by their side. They had managed to escape by the skin of their teeth, but the cult had already made its mark on the family, and her parents soon split, leaving Rose to bounce between her mother's and father's homes. Despite having made it out, young Rose entered a new kind of prison, and her parents were the wardens. She described her father to be a cruel man with manic tendencies, and her mother had a habit of dating merciless men that often abused Rose. At the age of 15, McGowan decided she didn't want to be dependent on her parents and legally emancipated herself. She was so determined that even though she had no money to her name, she represented herself in court, telling the judge why she would be better off without her parents and taking care of herself. The court went in her favor, and Rose was set free from her parents. As good as this news was, it only meant one thing. She was officially broke and homeless with no place to go and no one to turn to. I was homeless, I was on my own, and I was very lonely. I was entirely focused on just surviving. Since Children of God was a polygamous cult, Rose's mother was not her father's only wife. Men in the cult were allowed to have more than one wife, and women were required to be submissive and subservient towards all the men. This left McGowan with no real example of what a normal and healthy romantic relationship was supposed to look like. So when it came to dating, she was completely unprepared and didn't have an idea of what to look for in a partner. Vulnerable and alone, she began dating men who were much older than her. When I started having relationships with men, I wasn't set up to understand that kind of world. At the time, I thought it was cool, but now I think it's creepy, she admitted. Rose met Brett Cantor, and she describes him to have been her savior. He gave her a place to stay when she had nowhere to go, and took care of her. For the first time in years, she felt like she was finally happy and felt loved and safe. Brett took away her pain and made her feel like she was whole again. Her life was starting to feel normal. and with Brett by her side, she felt like she could do anything. Unfortunately, their bliss was short-lived. One night, McGowan was on her way back to LA following a road trip to Seattle. She called Cantor's phone to let him know that she would be home soon, but instead of hearing his voice on the other side of the phone, Rose found herself speaking with someone from the LAPD. The police officer told her the tragic news that no girlfriend ever wants to hear, and with that, Rose's world was shattered. Cantor had been murdered. He had been found alone in his apartment with multiple stab wounds, and no one knew who had killed him. No one can imagine what it was like for 19-year-old Rose to be told that the man she loved was dead. All the happiness that she felt was gone, and her safety net had been snatched from right under her. She says that Brett will always have a piece of her heart, and she treasures all their times together dearly. The case is still unsolved, but I have been trying for years to remedy that, she confessed. Understandably, she became deeply depressed after losing the love of her life. She felt alone and was afraid of becoming homeless again.
Well, it was a very traumatic period in my life, and I'm somebody, I talk about this in my book. I was homeless when I was 13, I was a runaway, and I was so proud of myself for not getting assaulted when I was on the streets. It's a strange thing to be proud of, but I was very proud of that.
One day, when she was standing on the corner of the streets crying, a woman approached her and asked her if she wanted to become an actress. With no other options and no one else to turn to, Rose felt like this was going to be her best bet. So the newfound actress began booking jobs, managed to pay her bills, and at the same time discovered something that she was good at. While her career started kicking off, she began dating rock star Marylin Manson. The couple turned heads everywhere they went, especially on the red carpet when Rose wore the naked dress, which left very little to the imagination. They were together for around 6 years and even got engaged, and were, as the actress described, a legendary love. However, she admitted that she was unable to keep up with Manson's rock star lifestyle. There is great love, but our lifestyle difference is, unfortunately, even greater. After the couple parted ways in 2001, they remained on good terms. In her book, Brave, she wrote, "When he wasn't creating electrifying music, Manson was painting watercolors of my Boston Terriers while I was ordering glassware from Martha Stewart's online store." Rose McGowan took to Twitter in 2016 with a shocking allegation. She had been assaulted by an unnamed studio head whose predatory behavior was an open secret in Hollywood/media, and revealed that she didn't pursue legal action when a lawyer told her she'd never win in court because she'd done a sex scene in a film. The world was shocked, and everyone wanted to know who the mystery man was. As it turns out, back in the late 90s, just when Rose's career was beginning to gain traction, Harvey Weinstein had asked to have a private meeting with her to speak about her career. However, the business meeting with him suddenly took a horrifying turn when he forced her into his jacuzzi room and assaulted her.
Somebody gave him my number. And I won't mention the other names, but Gwyneth Paltrow's already talked about it. And he said, "Gwyneth's my special friend. Blank's my special friend. You're my new special friend." And I slid down the wall and threw up on myself.
After going to a lawyer who said she wouldn't stand a chance in court because of how much power and money Weinstein had, Rose was paid $100,000 to keep her quiet about the assault. However, he also went on to blacklist her name in the industry, which quickly put a stop to her blossoming career. With her film career stalled due to Harvey Weinstein's alleged blacklisting, McGowan accepted an offer to join the cast of Charmed, a supernatural series about a trio of spellcasting sisters which had just parted ways with Shannen Doherty. It felt nice to be wanted after so much rejection and knowing I was blacklisted by my omnipresent monster. However, the actress describes working on the show as soul-crushing and exhausting. Looking back, she is shocked that she worked with only one female director during her 5 years on the show. The majority of the male crew would snicker and disrespect when she would direct them. However, she went on to describe the irony of allegedly encountering relentless sexism on the set of a show that was being made for and targeted toward a female audience. She was once reprimanded for dyeing her hair red between seasons without receiving the studio's permission, and being screamed at by an unnamed male director who allegedly called her an idiot and bitch for accidentally exiting a scene in the wrong direction. The actress claimed that she and her fellow cast members were overworked, underpaid, and exhausted. A year after her initial 2016 tweet, McGowan confirmed that the mentioned studio head was Harvey Weinstein, becoming one of the first actresses to come forward to accuse the disgraced movie mogul of sexual misconduct. Since then, over 80 women have shared their own Weinstein allegations, with the lengthy list including the likes of Ashley Judd, Salma Hayek, and Gwyneth Paltrow.
That it was consensual, right? I don't know about you, but when you've had consensual sex, you don't really fill up with tears afterwards.
In early 2020, Weinstein was found guilty of rape and sexual assault and sentenced to 23 years in prison. Following the verdict, McGowan confessed, "I felt like I had about 500,000 pounds lifted off my shoulders. To have that burden lifted, it felt like my cells were dissolving." Over the years, Rose has become an activist for women, and while she's faced backlash for some of her opinions on the #MeToo movement, along with her political views, no one will ever be able to take away the fact that she was the first to speak out against a monster in the film industry. She paved the way for other women to come forward with their stories.
I'm choosing to still love people. Even when they come at me, even when they hate me, it's pretty cool. I get to choose love and I get to trust, which is something I never did. So thank you, monsters. You freed me in a way.
There's no doubt that since the arrest of Weinstein, the film industry has taken steps to make sure that women have a louder voice, and things have started to change for the better.